The 15 finalists for the 2024 NFL Hall of Fame class were recently announced, so I thought it'd be a great idea to go through those names and pick out some that stood out to me, as well as give my thoughts on how likely each of them are to get into the Hall of Fame, as most likely not all 15 of those names are getting in. If you're new to the channel, I am Hookshot Drew, and we here at Superb Sports Media love to bring you content based largely on the history of sports, and I think this topic today fits that pretty succinctly. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video today. Going alphabetically, we start off with the former Eagle Saint and Raider, the great Eric Allen. Allen made a name for himself on the vaulted early 90s Eagle defense that were just a few plays and an unfortunate Jerome Brown death away from perhaps their first Super Bowl win. Wouldn't that have been nuts if every NFC East team in the early 90s, instead of only the Birds being the only team that didn't win, won? That wasn't to say the Eagles' defense wasn't great though, despite the Cowboys, Redskins, and Giants all being well known at the time for having stout defenses of their own. Eric Allen was an absolute ball hawk. He could pick off a pass anytime, anywhere, and just as easily he could snag a pass out of the air, he could take the rock back to the house for 6. Allen aged like fine wine, and as a Raider in his mid-30s, he proved he could still go when he became the first player in NFL history to have 2 seasons of 3+ pick sixes. When at age 35, he took back 6 picks for 3 scores for the Silver and Black, who enjoyed a 12-4 season in 2000 on the strength of the tough Raiders defense and the breakout season of fellow 35-year-old Rich Canton. Overall, Eric Allen's major career accomplishments are 6 Pro Bowl trips and 3 first-team All-Pro selections, with 54 interceptions and 8 of them returned for pick 6 scores. Spoiler alert, I can see this video becoming somewhat lengthy with 14 more great players to go, but stay tuned till the end if you want to hear the cases for and against these gridiron legends getting sized up for their gold jacket and immortalized forever in bust form in the halls of Canton. Next up is another Allen, Jared Allen, no relation to Eric Allen. Allen didn't go to a large school and thus was a mid-round pick in 2004, but he hit the ground running as a rookie for the Kansas City Chiefs, racking up 9 sacks. When Jared Allen outplayed his rookie contract, to put it very mildly, to the tune of 43 sacks in 4 seasons, the Chiefs slapped him with the infamous franchise tag for the 2008 season. Allen wanted to be paid like a player that just led the league in sacks, and he did with 15.5, but the Chiefs weren't budging, and thus he was traded to the Minnesota Vikings, where he continued on his tear of terrorizing NFL quarterbacks. Jared Allen slung quarterbacks to the ground for losses 85.5 times in the 6 years he played in the Twin Cities. Allen is unfortunately one of the casualties of finalists on this list that played on bad teams. He came second in Defensive Player of the Year voting in 2011 to T. Sizzle, despite having 22 sacks to his 14. For context, Allen's Vikings were 3-13 and their defense was second to last in the NFL. However, Suggs' Ravens were 12-4 and made it to the AFC Championship game. Team success certainly plays a part. Allen only played in 7 career playoff games, but certainly made his mark with 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 11 total quarterback hits in those games. For his career, he has 136 sacks, 32 forced fumbles, and along with 4 safeties. He also caught 2 touchdown passes, was selected to 5 in Pro Bowls, and was a 4-time first-team All-Pro selection. Willie Anderson was a stud right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals throughout the 90s and early 2000s, but it certainly didn't start that way. Despite being a high first-round pick for the Cats, Anderson didn't really put it all together until his 8th season when he made the first of 3 first-team All-Pros. He also made 4 Pro Bowls in his time with the Bengals. I think most people remember the 2009 New Orleans Saints and their highly emotional Super Bowl win. Well, Jari Evans had a lot to do with the high-octane offense that exploded through the regular season and playoffs. A nearly perfect prospect at the guard position, there wasn't a guard in football that could play the run better, and you best believe Saints backs like Reggie Bush and Pierre Thomas liked running behind the massive number 73. From 2009 to 2013, Evans made the Pro Bowl and All-Pro teams, and a legitimate argument could be made that he was snubbed every other year that he was healthy. I don't want to spoil the case on the for and against section, but I believe Evans is a shoo-in for Canton. I don't get a vote, so we'll have to wait and see if the committee agrees with me. Overall, Evans made 6 Pro Bowls and 5 All-Pro teams and was voted for the Hall of Fame All-Decade Team for the 2010s. Dwight Freeney. Man, the memories I have of this man as a young lad falling in love with the game of football. At any moment, number 93 could take the game over, and you had to be there watching when it happened. Freeney was the first player I recognized as being an extremely elite athlete at a position most known for big, burly, strong men shoving people around. His power, speed, finesse, and technique were elite, but it was his tendency for the big play that was seemingly second to none. Freeney burst out on the scene as a rookie in 2002, recording 13 sacks and an astounding 9 forced fumbles to easily lead the league. Overall, he had 47 forced fumbles, 125.5 sacks, but it was his playoff contributions that put him over the top. 11 sacks for his career in the playoffs, as well as the huge 2006 postseason that he had to help Indy win the Super Bowl. He was named to the Hall of Fame All-Decades team for the 2010s, made 7 Pro Bowls, and had 3 first-team All-Pro selections. I'm sure we've all heard it a million times before, but did you know Antonio Gates was a basketball player? All jokes aside, what Gates accomplished on the field is nothing short of phenomenal and extraordinary. He was not a natural fit for the game of football like he was for basketball, but there was no denying his talent and the impact on the gridiron that he had. He leveraged his size and body control over opposing DBs, and with his speed and strength causing matchup problems, Gates parlayed his basketball skills into a vertical threat tight end that was nearly impossible to defend in the red zone. Gates turned footballs into 6 points 116 times, good for 7th all-time, and first for all tight ends. Overall, he caught 955 passes for 11,841 yards, made 8 Pro Bowls, and was voted to an All-Pro team 5 times, including the first team 3 times. Now that's ballin'. Go ahead and fit him now, honestly. Rodney Harrison is such an interesting player to examine. Like fellow Charger teammate and Hall of Famer, the late great Junior Seau, the Patriots in the dark hoodie rescued him to greener pastures. But unlike Seau, Harrison was able to take home some hardware on the move to the East Coast. Harrison was a big-time contributor to the back-to-back Super Bowl champions of 03-04, with 6 picks, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and the 6 championship-winning playoff games. Harrison only made 2 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro teams, including 2 first-team All-Selections, but he is one of only 2 players in the game's illustrious history to have 30-plus sacks and 30-plus interceptions, the other being the greatest middle linebacker to ever live, Ray Lewis. Devin Hester, where were you when it happened? I could tell you exactly where I was. I was 14 years old at my friend's grandparents' house watching the Super Bowl eating hors d'oeuvres, thinking there's no way the Colts were going to lose this game. That quickly changed to no way they're actually kicking it to him. Hester was a rookie but had already set the NFL world on fire by running 6 kicks back for touchdowns in the regular season, 3 on punts, 2 on kickoffs, and 1 on a missed field goal. Teams had started to get wise by squibbing it to him or just punting it out of bounds. For some reason, a goat of kickers decided he would try his luck, and just 14 seconds into the game, the Colts were down 7 points. There has never been a moment quite like that to start a Super Bowl. The Colts would still win, but the legend of Hester had only begun. When it was all said and done, Hester made 4 Pro Bowls and was named first-team All-Pro 3 times. He ran back 20 kicks for touchdowns and scored a total of 37 touchdowns. He made 2 All-Decade teams, the 2000s and the 2010 team. The greatest show on turf. What a time to be alive. I truly believe it was this Rams team that really cemented the modern passing era. With a bevy of talent the likes of an offense has never seen since, the St. Louis Rams parlayed that into a record-setting offense ran by Mike Martz. When the '99 Rams set the world on fire with former grocery bagger and Arena League quarterback Kurt Warner at the helm, Torrey Holt was just a rookie. He didn't necessarily burst out onto the scene in the regular season, finishing with 788 yards and 6 touchdowns, but Holt definitely arrived when it was time for the 13-3 number 1 ranked offense of the Rams to head into the playoffs. With 20 catches for 242 yards in the 3 playoff games, the rookie Holt saved his best game of the season for the biggest stage, recording 7 receptions for 109 yards and a score and the Super Bowl win over the Titans. The very next season, Holt went absolutely ape, as the kids say, gaining 1635 yards on 82 receptions for a ridiculous 20 yards a catch. In 2003, Holt became the first wide receiver in NFL history to record a second 1,600-yard season, something not even the GOAT achieved. All in all, Holt brought in 920 passes for his career, gaining 13,382 receiving yards and 74 touchdowns. He made 7 Pro Bowls, made the first-team All-Pro team once, and was on the Hall of Fame All-Decades team of the 2000s. I can only imagine how challenging it is to be the superstar player on an expansion team that routinely struggles to build a competent winning team, but Andre Johnson can never be accused of not trying his absolute best. Playing with some of the most harassed and attacked quarterbacks of all time, Andre Johnson still managed to put up some of the most impressive numbers we've seen from a wideout. Recording 5 seasons of 100-plus catches, Andre Johnson carved out a career of contested catches, yakking up some defenders, and even throwing a punch or two. With 1,062 catches for 14,185 yards and 70 touchdowns, Andre Johnson has truly elite numbers, but the main thing that eluded him was the postseason. as Johnson only made the playoffs in 2 out of his 14 seasons in the NFL, but in the 4 playoff games he played in, he recorded 25 passes for 358 yards for a 90 a game average. Not bad at all for a relatively small sample size. For his career, Johnson made 7 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pro teams with 2 first-team selections. Most elite college prospects don't reach the lofty expectations they place on themselves, let alone what the general public expects. Julius Peppers is not one of those people. Drafted number 2 overall by the Carolina Panthers in 2002, Peppers immediately made right on that decision by the Panthers by recording 12 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, a pick, and 6 batted passes, earning himself Defensive Rookie of the Year. Whether it was stuffing the run, he had 175 stuffs, sacking the quarterback, 159.5 career sacks, or forcing fumbles, he had 52 of those. Peppers was a game wrecker throughout his career. Besides the Panthers, Peppers took over games for the Bears and Packers, recording 10-plus sacks for both teams as well, finishing 3rd in history for the most 10-plus sack seasons with 10. Peppers proved he could still go in 2017 when he recorded 11 sacks at age 37, returning to Carolina as a rotational player. All in all, Peppers made 9 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros, and made 2 separate All-Decade teams for the 2000s and 2010s. It wouldn't be accurate to call Fred Taylor an expansion superstar, as by the time he was drafted, not only had the Jaguars played 3 seasons in Jacksonville, but they had made the playoffs twice, including making the AFC Championship game in just their 2nd season in existence. Led by hard-nosed coach Tom Coughlin, the Jaguars played smash-mouth football behind a powerful run game and stout defense. James Stewart was a fine running back to start off the Jaguars' tenure, but when the Jaguars spent a top 10 draft pick on Fred Taylor, the message was clear. The Jaguars wanted an elite talent to build the Jaguars' offense around, and Taylor definitely fit the mold of a franchise cornerstone player. Right off the bat, Taylor ripped off an impressive rookie season, running for 1,223 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns, pulling in 444 passes for 421 yards and 3 more scores. Taylor didn't stop there, as in the playoffs he ran for 248 yards in the 2 games and in 245 in the next season in 2 playoff games. Jacksonville never really got over the hump that is the AFC Championship game, but it also didn't help to have a prime Peyton Manning and the Colts in the same division at this time. Taylor was never really considered a truly elite running back from what I can recall, but his career numbers are nothing to scoff at, finishing with 7 seasons of 1,000 yards for a career total of 11,695 rushing yards and 74 total scores. He made 1 Pro Bowl and had a 2nd-team All-Pro selection. I'm of the opinion that if Reggie Wayne was a more vocal person, he would have already been put in the Hall of Fame. Wayne was a quiet guy, and he quietly carved out a very impressive career playing with the likes of Peyton, Edgerrin, and Marvin up in Indy. A first-round pick out of the U in 2001, it took a few seasons to put it together, but in 2004, Wayne broke out with 1,210 yards and 12 receiving touchdowns to put himself on the map as one of the game's best and probably the best number 2 wide receiver of all time. Wayne led the NFL in receiving yards in 2007 with over 1,500 yards and had 4 seasons of at least 100 catches. All in all, he hauled in 1,070 passes for 14,345 yards and 82 receiving touchdowns, making 6 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro teams with 1 first-team selection. He was extremely pivotal in the previously mentioned Super Bowl win over the Bears in 2006. Injuries are a tragic part of the game, unfortunately, and I have to admit I've spent a lot of time considering guys' numbers if they didn't get hurt, like Priest Holmes or Sterling Sharp. But some of these guys were so dominant in their short careers that it can't really be overlooked. Guys like Gale Sayers and Terrell Davis come to mind, dudes that were so impactful that despite only playing 7 injury-plagued seasons, they still managed to be immortalized forever. Patrick Willis may be one of these guys. Drafted 11th overall in 2007 by the 49ers, Willis quickly established himself as not only one of the very best linebackers in the league, but one of the very best players in the league. Willis had a rookie season for the ages, recording a league-leading 174 tackles, with 136 of them being solo tackles, had 4 sacks, 5 batted passes, and 2 forced fumbles. He was voted Defensive Rookie of the Year and was named to the first-team All-Pro team as a rookie. In fact, Willis made an All-Pro or Pro Bowl every year that he played most of the season, only missing out on awards in his final season, his injury-plagued 6-game 2014 season that caused him to retire early from the game of football. All in all, he recorded 950 tackles in 112 games, had 20 sacks, 8 picks, 16 forced fumbles, and 60 run stuffs to go along with 7 Pro Bowls and 5 first-team All-Pro selections. Those are numbers that guys typically have over a long career, but keep in mind he only played 8 seasons, with the 8th season being less than half a year. The Hall of Fame is somewhat infamous for how stingy it can be including safeties into the Hall of Fame. After all, it took them 15 years to put in Steve Atwater and John Lynch after they were eligible. Hope for Darren Woodson, however, exists in the form of Kenny Easley, who, like Sayers and Davis, only played 7 injury-plagued seasons but battled it out with LT for the best defensive players of the 1980s and was inducted into the Hall of Fame for his efforts in 2017. Drafted by the Cowboys in '92, though, Darren Woodson quickly became a defensive playmaker for the '90s Cowboys dynasty, making 5 straight Pro Bowls with 3 straight first-team All-Pros in his stretch from '94 to '98. His stats aren't otherworldly, with 967 tackles, 23 picks, 12 forced fumbles, and 11 sacks, but Woodson was a defensive cornerstone for heralded Cowboys defense that complemented the Cowboys' triplets offense very well. That's the list of the finalists and a glimpse at their career accomplishments, but how likely are each of them to make the Hall of Fame and why wouldn't they make it? Let me know in the comments who you think is a lock and who may have to wait a little bit longer. Now, as promised, let me get to the cases for each player and the merits of their induction to the Halls of Canton. With Eric Allen, the case 4, he's an extremely memorable player with highlights that are still shown from time to time. Allen has the pedigree, numbers, and resume to get in. The case against him, he never won a Super Bowl, which is the most that really can be said against him. I would say it's a toss-up. Jared Allen, the case 4. The numbers are amazing, the first-team All-Pro selections are evident of his eliteness. The case against him, though, virtually no playoff resume to speak of. I think he should get in. Willie Anderson, the case 4. 3 first-team All-Pro selections in an era with amazing tackles can't be overlooked, but the case against him is he was kind of a late bloomer who really just had 4 seasons of elite play. I think he might be waiting a while. Jari Evans, the case 4. Probably the best of his generation. 4 first teams, Super Bowl win for New Orleans, case against. Well, there's a lot of great guards in the Hall of Fame. They may not want another one just yet, but I think he gets in this year, if not next year. Dwight Freeney, the case 4. Highly dominant player with many NFL film highlights in important games, huge playoff performer. The case against. He played with Robert Mathis, who had very similar numbers, as well as many great rival players with similar or better numbers. I think he may get in, but I can also see him waiting a season or 2. Antonio Gates, the case 4, transcendent player that changed the position, stats are elite, etc., etc. The case against, I don't really think there's any argument. I'd be very surprised to see him not get selected. Rodney Harrison, the case 4, elite level safety that probably didn't get his flowers in San Diego, but proved he was him in New England. Important to the back-to-back title wins, the case against, 2 Pro Bowls and 2 first-team All-Pros don't look that sexy on paper. I think he gets in, but this is also another toss-up. Devin Hester, the case 4, greatest return man ever, made teams respect him and work on kicking drills over and over. He changed the way special teams was played against him. Super Bowl kickoff return touchdown. The case against, he fumbled a lot and wasn't much use outside of returning kicks. I don't think it's possible he doesn't get in, though. His cultural impact can't really be denied at all. I think he gets in. Torrey Holt, the case 4, impact on Rams, stats are there. Case against, I think the Rams from that team have made a lot of Hall of Famers happen. The committee has been reluctant in the past to elect too many players from the same team. Holt has similar numbers to players who haven't made the Hall of Fame. I think he could get in, but I could see them making him wait a little while like they did with his teammate Isaac Bruce. Andre Johnson, the case 4, impressive career numbers for a bad team. I mean, truly elite players for most of his career. The case against, nearly no playoff resume. Not a lot of touchdown catches for how many passes and yards he gained. I think he gets in, but I could see them making him wait a year or 2. Julius Peppers, the case 4, the numbers, the dominance, the impact on the game. Against him, I mean, not really sure other than those Super Bowl wins. He seems like an obvious shoe-in. I really would be surprised if him and Gates don't get in. They seem like the biggest locks out of this year's finalists. Fred Taylor, the case 4. He really put Jacksonville on the map. He had respectable numbers. The case against, there are players with better resumes that are not in the Hall of Fame. Only 1 Pro Bowl. I think he might honestly have the most questionable resume out of this year's finalists. Reggie Wayne, the case 4. Elite career numbers, big playoff games. The case against him, similar to Torrey Holt, Wayne was kind of the little brother of Marvin Harrison. I could see them making him wait, but I don't think it would be for very long. Patrick Willis, the case 4, elite linebacker who was truly a top 10 player in the league the entire time he played. 5 first-team All-Pros should make him a lock. The case against him, the only thing is I think his short career and no rings, but Kenny Easley and Gale Sayers didn't win anything either. I think he gets in as well. I would say he's a lock. He's a lock for me, but he's been eligible for a while. Darren Woodson, the case defensive playmaker for a dynasty. The case against, Safeties historically have a tougher time getting into the Hall of Fame. He has a weaker resume than guys that had to wait for 15 years. I could see him missing the cut this time. So there you have it, the 2024 NFL Hall of Fame finalists, a bit about their career accomplishments and my opinion on their chances to get in. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion, but please share your thoughts in the comments section, but remember to be civil. I am Hookshot Drew, and I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like what you watch, check out this other video that YouTube thinks you'll like, and double check to make sure you're subscribed. Have a great day and be kind.